The stars dimmed as the massive draconian warships entered Earth's orbit. They looked like giant metal dragons, their hulls shining in the sunlight. People across the world stopped and stared at their screens. Some felt scared, others curious, but everyone knew this day would change everything. Emperor Drake of the Draconian Empire had ruled 7 galaxies for over 800 years. His species looked almost human, except for their golden eyes with slit pupils and the faint scales that shimmered on their skin when they moved. Drake stood 7 feet tall with broad shoulders and wore armor that seemed to be made of actual dragon scales. The Emperor was known for his fair but strict rule, and now he had turned his attention to Earth. 12-year-old Lucy Miller stared out the window of the diplomatic shuttle as it rose toward the main draconian ship. Her heart beat fast, but she tried to look calm. Her mother, Carol, squeezed her hand. "Remember what we talked about?" Carol said quietly. "Stay close to me and don't speak unless spoken to." Lucy nodded, but inside she felt both scared and excited. Her mother was Earth's lead diplomat, and when the aliens had asked to meet Earth's leaders, they had specifically requested family members come too. The Draconians believed you could learn a lot about people by seeing how they treated their children. The shuttle docked, and Lucy followed her mother and 5 other diplomats into a huge room with walls that looked like they were made of living metal. Emperor Drake sat on a simple throne at the end of a long table. His golden eyes watched them carefully. "Welcome, people of Earth," the Emperor said, his voice deep and powerful. "Please sit and let us discuss how our empires might benefit each other." For an hour the adults talked about trade, technology, and borders. Lucy tried to stay quiet, but she noticed something odd in the agreement being discussed. The Draconians wanted all of Earth's water rights in exchange for technology. She tugged at her mother's sleeve. "Not now," Carol whispered, but Lucy couldn't stay quiet. "Excuse me," she said, standing up. Everyone turned to look at her. Her mother's face went pale. "The trade isn't fair," Lucy continued, pointing at the holographic display. "You're asking for unlimited water rights, but water is essential for all life on our planet. We can't give you complete control." The room went silent. The human diplomats looked horrified. But instead of getting angry, Emperor Drake leaned forward, his golden eyes fixed on Lucy. "Explain your reasoning, young one," he said. Lucy took a deep breath and walked to the display. "See this part here? It gives your ships the right to take water from any ocean without limit. But our oceans are delicate. Taking too much could hurt our climate and kill sea life." A smile spread across Emperor Drake's face. It was the first real emotion he had shown. "Your reasoning is sound and your courage remarkable," he said. "You remind me of my granddaughter, Ella. She had the same sharp mind and brave heart before she passed to the stars last year." The Emperor stood and walked toward Lucy. He was so tall that she had to look up to see his face. The human diplomats tensed, but Lucy didn't back away. Then Emperor Drake did something unexpected. He bowed slightly and said, "Princess, marry me?" The room erupted in shock. Carol jumped to her feet and pulled Lucy behind her. The human security team moved forward. The Draconian guards raised their weapons. "She is a child," Carol shouted. "How dare you?" Emperor Drake looked confused, then understanding dawned on his face. He raised his hands. "I see the misunderstanding," he said. "In my culture, asking a child to marry me means to join my royal household as family. It is a great honor, like adoption into the imperial line. I meant no offense." But the damage was done. The human diplomats huddled together, whispering urgently. The Draconians looked uncomfortable, realizing something had gone terribly wrong. "This meeting is over," said the head of Earth's diplomatic team. "We need to reconsider our position." As they left the room, Lucy looked back at Emperor Drake. He stood still, watching them go, a sad expression on his face. She realized he truly hadn't meant to be inappropriate. It was just 2 cultures crashing together without understanding each other. The shuttle ride back to Earth was tense. The diplomats argued about whether to cut off talks completely or try again with clearer cultural guidelines. "They might see our retreat as weakness," one diplomat warned. "Better that than allowing them to think we'd let them take our children," another replied. Lucy sat quietly, thinking about the Emperor's eyes when he mentioned his granddaughter. There had been real pain there. Maybe there was more to these dragon people than they first thought. What nobody knew yet was that this misunderstanding would be just the beginning of a relationship that would change the galaxy forever. 3 days after the disastrous first meeting, Lucy couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the look on Emperor Drake's face when everyone misunderstood him. She finally got up and went to find her mother, who was still awake, reviewing reports in their temporary quarters at the diplomatic center. "Mom, I think we made a mistake," Lucy said, sitting across from her mother. I don't think the Emperor was being creepy. I think it really was just a mix-up. Carol looked up from her tablet. Honey, it's not that simple. The cultural differences between us and the Draconians are huge. That's why I want to talk to him again, Lucy said. Someone needs to explain our side clearly. Carol shook her head. The diplomatic team is handling it. This isn't a job for a kid. Lucy finished. But that's exactly why it should be me. He connected with me because I reminded him of his granddaughter. He'll listen to me. After hours of debate, Lucy finally convinced her mother to arrange a private meeting with Emperor Drake. The next day they boarded a shuttle back to the Draconian flagship. This time, Lucy came prepared with notes and pictures about Earth families and customs. When they entered the Emperor's private study, Drake seemed genuinely pleased to see them. The room was filled with strange objects from different worlds, what looked like a collection built over centuries. I am grateful you returned, the Emperor said, his golden eyes focused on Lucy. I fear I caused great offense. Lucy stepped forward. That's why I'm here. I want to explain something important about humans. She pulled out her tablet and showed him pictures of Earth families, schools, and wedding ceremonies. On Earth, adults don't marry children, she explained carefully. Marriage is only between adults who love each other romantically. When you asked me to marry you, everyone thought you wanted me as a wife, not a family member. That's why they got upset. Drake's eyes widened in understanding. This explains the reaction. How unfortunate. In Draconian culture, asking a child to marry me is a formal invitation to join the royal family as a protected member, like what you would call adoption. I simply wish to honor your intelligence by offering you a place in my household, as I would have for my own granddaughter's friend. Lucy nodded. I thought it might be something like that. Different words, same feelings, but totally different meanings. The Emperor studied her carefully. You understood this while the adult diplomats did not. How? Lucy shrugged. I guess I just figured you wouldn't have different rules for your own people versus us. You seemed sad when you talked about your granddaughter. That seemed real. Drake smiled slightly. Your insight is remarkable. Our technology can translate languages perfectly, but it cannot translate hearts. This is a uniquely human trait, to see beyond words to intention. Carol watched the exchange with growing amazement. The feared Emperor of 7 Galaxies was having a heart-to-heart with her 12-year-old daughter. Perhaps, Drake continued, this is why our meeting failed. We approached it as an exchange of terms rather than an exchange of understanding. That's exactly it, Lucy said excitedly. Your computers can't tell you when something feels wrong to humans. But I can. Drake stood up and walked to a window overlooking Earth. Then I have a new proposal. Not marriage but partnership. Young Lucy, would you consider becoming a royal advisor to me? A bridge between our peoples? Carol started to object, but Lucy spoke first. What would I do exactly? You would help me understand human perspectives. In return, you would learn about the galaxy and its peoples. You would be Earth's youngest ambassador. Over the next few weeks, Lucy began spending several hours a day aboard the Draconian flagship. She brought Earth books, music, and art to share with the Emperor. In turn, he showed her star maps and histories of 1,000 worlds. One day, as they reviewed a trade agreement, Lucy pointed out something the Emperor had missed. This rule about resource distribution wouldn't work on Earth, she explained. You're thinking everyone would follow the most efficient path, but humans don't always do what's most logical. We care about things like tradition and personal choice. Drake considered this. My advisors rely on predictive models based on logic. Yet you suggest humans would react differently? Definitely, Lucy said. Your computers can't predict how people will feel about something. This simple observation led the Emperor to reconsider centuries of Draconian policy. Despite all their advanced technology, the Draconians had missed something fundamental about governing, understanding the emotional needs of the governed. As weeks turned to months, Lucy's influence grew. She helped draft a new Earth-Draconian treaty that respected both cultures. Other alien representatives began seeking her input on their own negotiations with Earth. One evening, as Lucy explained the concept of human holidays to the Emperor, he said something that surprised her. In 900 years of rule, I have built systems that function perfectly, yet my people have grown distant from me. You have shown me that efficiency without connection creates fragile empires. Perhaps this is why humans, despite your technological limitations, might become our greatest teachers. Lucy smiled. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said about us. Usually, you guys just talk about how primitive we are. Primitive in technology, perhaps, Drake said, but advanced in ways we had forgotten matter. And so the girl who had almost caused an interstellar incident became the bridge that joined two civilizations, proving that sometimes the youngest voices carry the wisest words. 3 months into her role as Earth's youngest ambassador, Lucy found herself spending more time aboard the massive Draconian flagship. The initial fear she'd felt had turned into fascination. The ship was like a floating city with gardens, libraries, and even small lakes. Emperor Drake had given her access to most areas, trusting her in ways that surprised his advisors. Today, Lucy sat in on a military briefing. Commander Bolt, the Emperor's chief of security, was reporting on border patrols near the territory of the stellar hegemony, the Draconians' main rivals in this part of the galaxy. All systems show normal activity, Commander Bolt reported. The hegemony ships maintain their usual patrol patterns. Lucy watched Commander Bolt carefully. Something seemed off about him. He kept touching his collar and avoiding eye contact with the Emperor when discussing certain sectors. Most people wouldn't notice, but Lucy had always been good at spotting when someone was hiding something. Her friends used to joke that she could always tell when they were lying about homework. After the meeting, Lucy followed Bolt at a distance. She noticed he took an unusual route back to his quarters, stopping in a maintenance section where few people went. He checked to make sure no one was watching before entering a small room. Lucy didn't follow, that would be too dangerous, but she made a mental note of the location. That evening during her daily meeting with Emperor Drake, Lucy hesitated before bringing up what she'd seen. "Is something troubling you, young advisor?" Drake asked, noticing her distraction. "Maybe nothing," Lucy said, "but Commander Bolt is acting weird." The Emperor's expression didn't change. "Explain." "It's little things. The way he avoids looking at you when talking about the hegemony border. How he touches his collar when he's nervous. And today I saw him sneaking into a maintenance room where nobody goes." Drake studied her. "These observations seem insignificant." "Maybe," Lucy admitted. "But my dad always says people have tells when they're hiding something. Bolt has too many tells." "The commander has served me for 30 years, Drake said. "And our surveillance systems monitor all communications. If he were disloyal, we would know." Lucy frowned. "Can I see those surveillance records?" The Emperor agreed, though he clearly thought it was a waste of time. Lucy spent hours reviewing footage of Commander Bolt. Something still felt wrong, but she couldn't put her finger on it. Then she noticed a pattern. Every third day at the same time, Bolt's communication device would show a brief power surge. It lasted only a second, too short for automated systems to flag it as suspicious. But it happened with perfect timing like clockwork. Lucy showed the Emperor. "See? Every 3 days, exactly at 15:37 ship time. That's not random." Drake seemed troubled now. "This would not trigger our security alerts. The pattern is too subtle." "Can we check what happens during those surges?" Lucy asked. The Draconian technicians couldn't detect any transmissions during the power surges. The security chief dismissed Lucy's concerns, suggesting the surges were just equipment malfunctions. But the Emperor trusted Lucy enough to order deeper surveillance on Commander Bolt. 3 days later, Lucy and Drake watched from a hidden monitoring room as Bolt entered the same maintenance area. This time they could see what happened inside. Bolt activated a small device hidden behind a panel. For exactly 3 seconds, it transmitted a coded message before shutting down. "What's he sending?" Lucy whispered. The Emperor's golden eyes narrowed. "We cannot decode it yet. But the transmission is directed toward hegemony space." That night, instead of arresting Bolt immediately, Drake set a trap. He called a special meeting and announced a new defense initiative, one that didn't actually exist. He claimed Earth would be sharing revolutionary shield technology with the Draconian fleet, technology that would make them invulnerable to hegemony weapons. "Watch Bolt's reaction," Lucy whispered as the announcement was made. Sure enough, Bolt's face remained carefully neutral, but his hand went to his collar 4 times during the short briefing. 2 days later, 3 hegemony warships suddenly changed course toward Earth. They were still in hegemony space, but their new heading was suspicious. "They took the bait," Drake said grimly. "They believe we are about to receive this new technology and wish to prevent it." When Bolt made his next scheduled transmission, the security team was waiting. They arrested him immediately. Under questioning, he revealed the truth. He had been recruited by the hegemony 5 years ago. His mission was to sabotage relations between Earth and the Draconians by any means necessary. "How did you know?" Bolt finally asked Lucy when she was allowed to see him in his cell. "Our best intelligence officers created this system. The transmissions were undetectable. I didn't know for sure, Lucy admitted. I just noticed you seemed nervous when talking about certain things. Humans are good at seeing patterns, especially emotional ones. Later, Emperor Drake summoned Lucy to the observation deck. They stood together looking out at the stars. Your species sees connections mine cannot, he admitted. Our technology can analyze billions of data points, yet we missed what a 12-year-old human could see. The simple patterns of behavior that reveal deception. Lucy shrugged. We've had to figure each other out without fancy tech for thousands of years. We've gotten pretty good at it. The hegemony would have used Bolt to drive a wedge between our worlds, Drake said. Perhaps even staged an attack that appeared to come from Draconian ships. You may have prevented a war. Just by paying attention, Lucy said. A skill, the Emperor replied, that may be more valuable than all our advanced systems. As Lucy gazed out at the stars, she realized something important. In a galaxy full of advanced technology, sometimes the most powerful tool was still the human ability to understand each other. The alarm sirens blared throughout the Draconian flagship. Lucy had been studying alien languages when the emergency lights began flashing. She ran to the command center, where Emperor Drake and his officers were gathered around a large holographic display. What's happening? She asked, breathless from running. Drake's face was grim. The hegemony has launched a surprise attack. They've targeted Earth's orbital stations. Lucy's heart dropped as she saw the images. 3 massive hegemony battleships had appeared near Earth's moon. They were firing on the International Space Station and the lunar colony. Thousands of people lived in those places. They must have learned that Commander Bolt's plan failed, one of the officers said. This is their response. Eliminate the alliance before it strengthens. Drake turned to his weapons officer. Deploy the fleet. Protect those stations at all costs. Lucy watched as the Draconian warships moved to intercept the hegemony forces. These ships were the most powerful in 7 galaxies, with weapons that could destroy planets. Surely they would make quick work of the attackers. But something unexpected happened. When the Draconian ships fired their main weapons, the energy beams seemed to dissipate against the hegemony shields. Impossible, shouted the weapons officer. Their shields shouldn't be able to withstand our cannons. Drake's eyes narrowed. They've adapted their technology. They must have been preparing for this. Lucy watched the battle unfold on the screens. The Draconian ships fired again and again, adjusting their weapon frequencies in a precise, mathematical pattern. Each time the hegemony shields adapted just as quickly. Our targeting computers can't find a weakness, reported an officer. Their shields are shifting frequencies faster than we can adjust. Meanwhile, Earth's own defense ships had joined the battle. They were small and far less advanced than either the Draconian or hegemony vessels. But Lucy noticed something interesting. The Earth ships were having more success landing hits. Look at our ships, she said, pointing to the display. They're getting through sometimes. Drake frowned. How is this possible? Your weapons are centuries behind ours. Lucy studied the battle patterns. I think it's because we're not being logical. Look at the Draconian attack pattern. Your computers are trying frequencies in a systematic way. The hegemony computers are predicting your next move and adjusting their shields before you fire. And your point is? Drake asked. Our ship captains aren't using computers to choose frequencies. They're just trying whatever feels right in the moment. Sometimes they get lucky because they're unpredictable. Lucy turned to the Emperor. Try changing frequencies randomly instead of logically. Don't let there be any pattern at all. Drake hesitated for only a moment before turning to his officers. Implement the human strategy. Disengage the targeting computers. Have our weapons officers select frequencies manually with no pattern. The officers looked shocked. Sire, that would be incredibly inefficient. The mathematical probability of... Do it now, Drake commanded. The change was immediate. When the Draconian ships fired their next volleys, some of the shots broke through the hegemony shields. Not all of them, but enough to cause damage. It's working, Lucy exclaimed. Drake nodded. Their predictive systems can't anticipate random human choices. The hegemony ships began to retreat, but they targeted the lunar colony with one final barrage. 3 Draconian ships moved to intercept, but they wouldn't reach it in time. Then something amazing happened. The Earth ships, which had been fighting independently, suddenly formed a tight formation. They positioned themselves between the hegemony weapons and the lunar colony, overlapping their small shields. What are they doing? Drake asked. Their shields aren't strong enough to stop those weapons. Lucy watched in awe. They're sacrificing themselves to save the colony. But instead of being destroyed, something unexpected happened. The overlapping shields of the Earth ships, each operating on different frequencies, created an unpredictable barrier that the hegemony weapons couldn't penetrate. "I don't believe it," whispered Drake. "It shouldn't work, but it does." As the hegemony ships retreated from the combined Earth and Draconian forces, Drake turned to Lucy. "Your ships have no unified command. How did they coordinate that defense so quickly?" "We improvise," Lucy said. "Human captains are used to making decisions on the fly. They saw what needed to be done and just did it." Drake watched the Earth ships breaking formation and returning to help with evacuations and repairs. Each ship acted independently but somehow formed part of a coordinated whole. "Your chaos is your strength," he realized aloud. "For millennia, my species has sought perfect order, perfect prediction. We built incredible technology but lost the ability to improvise, to act outside the expected parameters." Lucy smiled. "That's because we're messy. We make mistakes. But sometimes being unpredictable is exactly what you need." After the battle, Drake called together his top military advisors and the Earth defense leaders. For the first time in Draconian history, he asked them to learn from a less advanced species. "The hegemony will return," he told them. "And when they do, we will not rely solely on our technology. We will incorporate the human advantage, their beautiful chaos, their unpredictability, their ability to see patterns where our computers see only random data." As Lucy listened, she felt a surge of pride. Humans might not have the most advanced ships or the most powerful weapons, but they had something equally valuable: the creativity that comes from having to solve problems without perfect tools. 1 month after the battle, Emperor Drake called a meeting of the Grand Council. This wasn't just any meeting, it was the Council of Galaxies, where representatives from all worlds under Draconian protection gathered to discuss matters of importance. Such meetings happened only once every 50 years, but Drake had called this one early. Lucy stood nervously beside the Emperor as thousands of alien delegates filled the enormous chamber. She wore a simple blue dress. She had refused the elaborate royal garments the Draconian staff had offered. "I'm still just me," she had told them. The chamber hushed as Emperor Drake rose from his throne. His voice carried effortlessly across the vast space. "For 10,000 years the Draconian Empire has ruled the stars. We brought order and technology to 1,000 worlds. We believed our way was the only path forward." He paused, looking across the sea of faces. "We were wrong." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Emperor Drake never admitted mistakes. "The recent attack by the hegemony proved something I had forgotten: that true strength comes not just from advanced technology but from diversity of thought. Our perfect systems failed us. And who saved us? Humans, a species that has barely left their own solar system." Lucy felt thousands of eyes turned toward her. She wanted to shrink away but forced herself to stand tall. "Today I make an unprecedented announcement," Drake continued. "I name Lucy Miller as Princess of Earth, not as my bride as was misunderstood in our first meeting, but as representative of humanity's independent spirit." The chamber erupted in protest. A tall, blue-skinned delegate stood. "Earth is not even a full-member world. They have no fleet, no planetary shield, barely functional space travel. How can they be granted such status?" Another delegate, with 6 arms and glittering scales, added, "They would still be fighting with swords if we hadn't found them. They're children compared to us." Lucy looked at Drake, wondering if he would change his mind in the face of such opposition. Instead he seemed almost amused. "Children?" he repeated. "Perhaps. But children see what adults have forgotten." He walked down the steps from his throne, moving among the delegates. "For millennia we've perfected technology but forgotten innovation. We built machines to think for us until we forgot how to think differently. These humans remind us what we've lost." He gestured toward a huge screen that lowered from the ceiling. It showed images from the battle, Earth's ships forming their unexpected defense, the random frequency attacks breaking through supposedly impenetrable shields. "Their chaos is beautiful," Drake said. "Their illogical choices unpredictable. Their creativity boundless because they haven't been taught the right way to do everything." Lucy stepped forward, finding her courage. "We don't want to rule anything," she said, her voice smaller than Drake's but clear. "But we do want to be partners. We have things to learn from you, and maybe a few things to teach." An older Draconian council member stood. "What could they possibly teach us?" Lucy smiled. "How to color outside the lines. How to try the impossible because nobody told us it couldn't be done. How to see patterns in noise and connections between things that seem unrelated." Drake nodded approvingly. The hegemony nearly defeated us because they predicted our perfect, logical patterns. They could not predict the humans because humans themselves don't know what they'll do next. Over the next several hours, the council debated. Many were against giving Earth such status. Others, who had witnessed the battle, were more supportive. In the end, Emperor Drake simply overruled the objections. Earth will remain independent, not conquered. Lucy Miller will be its voice in this council, with the title of princess, meaning honored family member of the imperial house, not future bride. This is my decree. In the weeks that followed, Lucy worked tirelessly to build bridges between humans and Draconians. Her biggest achievement was an idea that came to her while watching young Draconian officers struggling to improvise during training exercises. What if we created a school, she suggested to Drake, where young humans and young Draconians could learn from each other? Not just about technology or science, but about different ways of thinking. The Emperor loved the idea. Within months, the first Galactic Exchange Academy opened on a space station orbiting Earth. 200 young humans and 200 young Draconians began living and studying together. At first, there were tensions. The Draconian students were frustrated by what they saw as human disorder. The human students were intimidated by Draconian intelligence and technology. But slowly, something beautiful happened. They began to learn from each other. Draconian students learned to brainstorm, to try wild ideas, to trust instincts. Human students learned discipline, advanced science, and strategic thinking. Together, they created inventions neither species could have developed alone. On the day the Academy celebrated its first anniversary, Lucy stood with Emperor Drake, watching human and Draconian students playing a game they had invented together. "You know," Lucy said, "that first day when you said, 'Princess, marry me,' and everyone freaked out? I never thought it would lead to this." Drake smiled, something he did much more often these days. "Sometimes the greatest journeys begin with a misunderstanding." "And sometimes," Lucy added, looking at the stars visible through the station's huge windows, "the smallest planets have the biggest ideas." As night fell over the Academy, the students, human and Draconian alike, gathered to watch Earth rise over the lunar horizon. A new galactic order had begun, built not on conquest but on the simple idea that different doesn't mean worse, just different. And in that difference lay the greatest strength of all.